I've had clients who have come to me and said, I'm in the process of exploring selling my company. Before you start any kind of discussions about selling your company, do an impact filter on exactly what you want in terms of what it looks like. And I'll give you an example. I had a client who had a technology company, and it was a huge offer, but the requirement would be that after he sold his company, he would have to be there for 3 years, kind of working for the new buyers, okay? And that wasn't acceptable to him. The second thing is he wanted the entire sale, the entire check, whatever, I'm not going to mention the number, but it was a huge number, the biggest number I've ever seen in the history of Strategic Coach, being offered to this individual. And he said, I want that check, and I want it, the full amount, in one check. I don't want it, in installments over a period of time. And so the person who was actually buying the company said, no, we'll spread it out over 3 years. And the third thing is, usually in the technology industry, the new buyer will say, I want a non-compete clause that you can't go out into the marketplace and actually start a new company that would compete with us. And he said, I'm not going to sign any non-compete clause. So I said, well, you got to put that in the impact filter, and that's in. So he wrote down what the purpose of the, selling the company was. It was going to free up all his time. Number two, the difference it would make if he got all his time back and he could devote it to the entire new company. The ideal outcome, that he just felt incredibly free. The existing staff in his existing company, they hit the ground running, and they knew exactly who the new owners were, and they weren't confused by having him around for 3 years. And then he went through the best and the worst. He started with the worst. As the worst can happen, he said, I've sold my company and I've lost my freedom, and my existing team is totally confused. And quickly, after I'm around, the new owners don't want me around, and I don't want to be around, but we're locked in for 3 years. He said that'd be absolutely the worst thing. And then he put down, these are the success criteria for the sale, stating absolutely everything he wanted. And then he had it on a sheet of paper, the impact filter, and every time he had a meeting, and he had about 3 or 4 meetings, he folded it up, and in his jacket pocket he put it right next to his heart. And he said, all through the negotiations, I knew that impact filter was right there, and I wasn't going to give 1 inch on what I wanted. The buyer, the potential buyer, said, well, that's just not acceptable. That's not how things are done in this world. And he said, well, I don't really care. He said, I can keep the company. Whatever you're offering me, I'm going to make that amount of money over the next 5 to 10 years anyway. So I don't need the money. I'm looking for freedom. And so they said, well, it's not a deal. And he said, well, think about it. And about 10 work days later, they phoned up and said, okay, anything you want, we'll give it to you right away. And he came in and he said, if I hadn't been clear about my non-negotiables, if I hadn't been clear about exactly what I wanted and why I wanted it, namely to be freed up so I can devote 100% of my time to the new company, he said, I would have given in. I would have compromised. And he said, I feel so great. He said, the check is one thing. And he said, it's a great check. But he said, I have lots of money. It's the freedom I wanted. And the impact filter was the crucial commitment to myself and to my team and to my new company, that it was going to be what I wanted or it was going to be nothing. And that made him the buyer. And so the other company, because he did the impact filter, the other company was actually the seller. They had to give him what he wanted or he wasn't going to buy. So this, when you're thinking about any transaction that you're doing in the marketplace, do an impact filter before you start the conversations and state to yourself, commit to yourself exactly what you want. And the most intentional person in any discussion anywhere in the world, but especially in the entrepreneurial marketplace, is the person with the most intention, totally committed to their own intentions, will always win the game. Doesn't mean that the other side's going to lose, but you're going to get what you want. So that's what I mean by being a buyer and not being a seller. So if this interests you and it triggers further questions that you have, then just write it down in the comments section and we'll be back to you.